The second lesson this morning is taken from the book of Exodus, reading in chapter 18. Not every verse. I'll be skipping around a little bit. And again, you can follow along in your pew Bibles, but it's a slightly different version than what you have. Here's what it says, beginning in verse 1 of chapter 18. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro took her back, along with her 2 sons. The name of the one was Gershom, for he said, "I've been an alien in a foreign land," for Gershom. And the name of the other, Eleazar, for he said, "The God of my father was my help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh." Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came into the wilderness where Moses was encamped at the mountain of God, bringing Moses' sons and wife to him. He sent word to Moses, "I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you." Gosh, how many times have I visited my daughters and wanted to announce my coming in that way? "I, my father-in-law," to their husband, "am coming to you, with your wife and her 2 sons." Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed down and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. The next day, Moses sat as judge for the people, while the people stood around him from morning until evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw that all that he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this that you're doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people stand around you from morning until evening?" Moses' father-in-law said to him, "What you're doing is not good. You'll surely wear yourself out, both you and these people with you. But the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone." Well, I imagine few of us would care to lead an exodus, because who among us really craves to lead a horde of former slaves with all their problems, hopes, and fears out a wandering for 40 years? Directing an emerging nation is a profit with a PH, profitable occupation. And the one who takes the job will be assured a place in history. He'll have no little claim to fame. Most everyone will know his name. Prestige, at first, will seem quite nice. But then he'll have to pay the price. Well, Moses didn't want to grip the lonely job of leadership, but God, one brilliant desert dawn, commanded him to take it on. And feeling he could ill afford to disobey the living Lord, he acquiesced to God's request and gave the job his very best. No enterprise will long survive whose leader works but 9 to 5. And Moses, being in his prime, began to work some overtime. His office soon became the site of meetings almost every night. And then he'd take a healthy tome of paperwork to do at home. With so much work that must be done, he had no time for work or fun. Nor could he laugh, relax, and frolic. Moses, you see, was a workaholic. Well, men with hefty power drives are rarely heroes to their wives. The man who leads a busy life has little time for home and wife. Their spouses do not share the end to join in praising famous men. They give success a cool reception. And Moses' wife was no exception. The Moses whom Zipporah married was growing tired, tense, and hairy. And she suspected he was very ready for a coronary. And so she thought 'twas time she had a little chat with Mom and Dad. She journeyed where her parents dwelt and told her folks just how she felt. When I agreed to marry Moses, I didn't want a bed of roses. I know it takes a lot of gall to argue with a holy gall. But Moses, as you plainly see, has time for God, but none for me. I cry myself to sleep each night. I ask you, do you think that's right? Obviously not. It caused those parents great distress to hear their daughter's unhappiness. Jethro, dear Zipporah's dad, was more than just a trifle mad. The time, he thought, is overdue to teach that boy a thing or two. Oh, Jethro's temper rankled raw as he saw his son-in-law, until he saw, to his dismay, how Moses spent each working day. The people came from far and near in hopes of catching Moses' ear. No problem was too small to mention. They brought them all to his attention. The sheer amount of people who were waiting for an interview caused Jethro to feel rather dizzy. My son-in-law is much too busy. I think I'll play a bit of Cupid. The boy's not bad. He's simply stupid. And so, I'm happy to relate, Jethro told it to him straight. Whoever said you were commanded to run this country single-handed? You're just the protege of God who rests the seventh. Why, you've become, how very odd, more indispensable than God. This schedule that you're keeping will put you to bed in Ulcerville. And that's a price we can't afford, so get some help, thus saith the Lord. Well, under Jethro's gentle nudges, Moses chose some able judges, and discovered to his glee they did the work as well as he. You see, there's ample help for any task once you have the sense to ask. I'm tempted to say the first thought that comes to my mind whenever I read about Moses' experience is, oh well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Centuries after Moses and Jethro were doing their thing on that Exodus, Jesus sent out the first of his wave of missionary kingdom builders. He sent them out in pairs, by the way. No one got sent alone. And he charged them. He told them as he was sending them, go ahead, be on your way, but be careful. This is hazardous work. You're like lambs in a wolf pack. Moses surely felt that way in his schedule that was leading him down the road to Ulcerville. But really, it hasn't changed one iota. We, in 2017, are still like lambs in the midst of a wolf pack. We live, as we do, in a culture of meism and self-aggrandizement at the expense of others, a culture in which we're now trying to deal with terms like fake news and alternative facts, a culture of divisiveness, particularly divisiveness against those who are different from us. And yet, the gospel of Jesus Christ beckons us in a totally different direction, a countercultural direction, the direction of mutuality and shared responsibility. All of that leads me to an understanding of a whole overarching truth that overarches Moses' experience, that overarches what Jesus had to say when he sent the first kingdom builders out. The truth that in our context, serving God as Christians is a team sport. We're in this together. God created us so that we should be serving the kingdom as one whole people. And that leads to a whole bunch of corollary truths. The first of which, obviously, if we're engaged in a team sport as Christians, it is not all about you. It's not all about me. It's about us together. God has summoned us into a church, into a community of faith, so that we may focus together on serving others. God did not summon us into the church to be his disciples in order to be served, let alone to serve ourselves. It's not all about you and me. The second thing that it makes me think of is there are times when our sisters and brothers in this Christian kingdom building endeavor, there are times when those sisters and brothers, those people with whom we share the work of committees as we hammer out details of events coming down the road, there are times when our own session, the official board, there are times when the minister of all people will make us mad, will hurt our feelings, and will just plain get on our nerves. Well, of course, that's the way it's supposed to be. At precisely the point when you can see just how shallow and petty some people can be, that's when you realize how shallow and petty you can be. And those experiences serve to sand off the rough edges and to sand down our inclinations to serve ourselves first. We come to realize in those circumstances that God, after all, God can use anybody. For heaven's sake, God can even use you and me to achieve God's purposes. We also come to encounter differences in understanding because of our sisters and brothers in faith in the church community. When you start listening to other people who are part of the community of faith, and as they tell you the sometimes sordid details of their story as they bumbled along through life, not unlike your own, you realize when you listen to them that they have had experiences of God that you haven't. And you begin to understand that God is so much bigger than I ever thought, thanks to the brothers and sisters of our shared faith. We also come to realize that our brothers and sisters of faith can inspire and support us. Oh, of course, Christians can let you down, and they will, because we are all human beings. And that's what human beings do. Whether we intend it or not, now and then at least, we let each other down. But there are other experiences. We find in the faith community disciples who will sit beside us in a courtroom when we or our kids are invited in to answer allegations about something. We discover a disciple who will hold our hand in the hospital room as our spouse lies seriously ill in that bed. We discover from time to time a disciple who shows up at the door carrying a pot of homemade soup on the days when we are flat out sick with the flu in bed. We discover that too. But most of all, it seems to me, what we discover is joy. Christian faith in Christian community is really just a microcosm of human life with a God bent to it. We understand God is in the midst of it. And yet the human microcosm, while there are times that we may find ourselves swearing about it quietly under our breath, there are so many other times in the life of the church as a human microcosm when we find ourselves laughing, clutching our ribs while tears of laughter stream down our faces. There's that too, because Christian discipleship is a team sport. In short, I guess John Donne put it most succinctly. To paraphrase him, no man or woman is an island entire of itself. Or to put it more bluntly, when you're all wrapped up in yourself, you make a pretty doggone small package. God has called us into the world together. We need to learn and to relearn, to offer and to accept support, help, and caring and compassion from each other and to each other. And we need intentionally to learn and to relearn how to model our behavior after the example of the self-giving life of Jesus Christ. And then we will have an indelible mark and impact on the world, on the community in which we live, for good. We will lay our bricks, so to speak, taking our part in the building of God's kingdom. That is what Jesus told the missionaries he sent out in the first place. Wherever you go, make sure you're proclaiming with words and with your deeds. The kingdom of God is right on your doorstep. May it always be so for us, not to our glory, but to God.